Welcome everybody to my channel. My name is Rainer and this is Radio Books. Today it is December the 3rd of 2022. The year is almost over, but this is time for another weekly wrap-up of the things that I've read and the things that I'm reading next week. So let's get started. As you can hear from my voice, maybe I have a cold, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's the RS virus that is going around, at least in Germany. We have a 16% rise of COVID here in Sweden, but nobody's really taking it seriously. So I don't know what I have. I have a cold, some kind of virus is inside me. I feel, I would say 3.5 out of 10 on a scale of worse. So it's kind of okay for me right now. I have a tap nose and things like that, but don't worry. I hope I make it. Let's talk about the pandemic. Yes, let's talk about the pandemic. Because the first book that I finished last week, the only book that I finished last week, was a book about the pandemic, about other things as well. But this is Lucy by the Sea by Elizabeth Strout. And it is a book, the third book in the so-called Amgash series, which goes back to the place where Lucy Barton, the protagonist, was born in Amgast and raised in Amgast, Illinois. However, this book plays out in Maine, in the state of Maine, at the coast, and a little part in Connecticut, a little part in New York, but mostly we are in Maine. The pandemic has started in 2020, and William, the ex-husband of Lucy, is calling Lucy, is telling Lucy, Lucy, I want to save your life. We got to go. We got to isolate ourselves. We go to a cottage in Maine because this will be dangerous. Lucy doesn't know so much about science. William was a scientist. She is a writer. And so finally she joins him and they go to Maine. They have long walks along the coast to hear news from New York, from the terrible things that happened there in the first phase of the pandemic when bodies were sort of waiting in the streets and cars, in coolers and cars, to get brought to the morgue, which was apparently very complicated and very bad in the first months of the pandemic. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in the end, more than 1 million Americans die. And things happen in the life of Lucy Barton, who we know, if you've read earlier books, the three books that I've read now are My Name is Lucy Barton, and O William, and Just Lucy by the Sea. These three books. There's a fourth one that I haven't read yet, and which I might read later next year or so. But three books by Lucy Barton means somehow that I liked the books by Elizabeth Strout, and I really, really do. Because she knows so much about the human condition. She's so sensitive, and she's also such a great writer in revealing things to us slowly, in a very slow-paced way, memories that Lucy Barton, who's now in her, I think, middle 60s, while William, her husband, is a couple of years older. She reveals things to us about her past, William's past, and life in general that are so wise, so smart, and so truthful that it really resonates, I think, with each and everyone out there. So that's really a very good recommendation. If you have friends who don't read so much, who read a book from time to time, and if you really want to give them a good book to read over the holidays, I would advise you to buy something by Elizabeth Strout. She's amazing. I love her, and I love Lucy Barton and all the characters in this book. William, and of course the daughters, Becca and Chrissy. A lot of things will happen to them here. They get in one and the other crisis, like people get into during the course of their lives, and they survive or they don't. So this is really a recommendation. The other book that I'm still reading, Die Diplomatin by Lucy Fricke, German one, is a book where I have read now about half of it. And this is a story about a German diplomat. She is first we meet her as an ambassador to the state of Uruguay in Montevideo, and a German citizen gets kidnapped. She winds up dead somewhere, and she's the daughter of a very influential journalist in Germany. And they blame the ambassador to Uruguay for that she hasn't done everything that was possible, and she gets sort of downwards degraded, is that, in her career from an ambassador to a consul in Istanbul in Turkey. And that's where I am in the middle of this Turkey episode, where we have a German-Turkish person, young guy, 25 years old, who has a Turkish passport and a German passport. His mother is jailed in Turkey. She's waiting for her trial. And the son is in Turkey, but now he's not allowed to go back to Germany because states like Turkey, they do that. I know that Iran does the same thing, that even if you have two passports, they would never recognize the passport of the other country. If you are Turkish and you are in Turkey, then they will say you are Turkish, and we don't care about the other nationality that you have. We can keep you here. So our consul is involved in this story too, so let's see how it goes. I can say it's more of the entertaining kind of literature. I am not really convinced of the writing style by Lucy Fricke, but I will finish the book just to give a conclusion, a final judgment on this novel. A third novel that I started, this is a project that I have had since I started this channel. I went out and said, I want to read everything that the American writer Richard Ford has published. First, I wanted to read them chronologically in order of their publishing dates, but then I decided to read them through and through, doesn't matter, with one exception. There's a trilogy that everybody knows of, that knows something about Richard Ford, and this is the Frank Bascom trilogy. It starts with the novel The Sportswriter in 1986, and this is the novel that I have started this week with the first chapter as well, and it reminds me a lot in the writing style of Canada that I read a lot earlier this year that I really loved, and I'm very interested what Richard Ford has to tell us about the human condition. So these are the three books that have sort of shaped my last week. I hope to be able to finish the Diplomatin next week, and then to pick up another book on my list of to be read until the end of the year. I might be a little spontaneous about that. What are you reading right now? What is your current read? Please tell me everything about it in the comments down below. And if you are satisfied with your reading year so far, because soon it's over, and I am up to 47 books now out of 60. I plan to read 60, and I realize now that 60 is way too far, way too advanced for me. With my kind of lifestyle, where I also watch television series, where I also go to a lot of football games, do a lot of football content on the other side, I won't be able to read 60 books a year. That's just not possible. I have seen on the net that some booktubers have done the I think the Football World Cup tag. I'm not going to do that because I think it's almost impossible to find a book from every nation represented in the Men's World Cup that is playing right now in the scandalous World Cup of Qatar in the Gulf region. But because there are 32 countries, there's Saudi Arabia, there's Qatar, there is Senegal, there is countries from all over the world, and you won't find books from all over the world. So what I have decided now to do, because I want to deal something booktube-ish with the World Cup, is to give you, and that is coming after this, 2 or 3 days after this video, is I want to give you top 10 books you should read about football, aka soccer. Both novels, both short stories, and non-fiction books. So that is what you can expect from me this week. Top 10 books about football, aka soccer, that you should read until the end of the World Cup, which is by the way, the 17th or 18th of December this year. So thanks for watching, everybody. I see you soon with a football video, and keep on reading.